How's everybody doing? Good? Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. So my name is Todd Price. I'm the Director of Policy Studies in the National College of Education. Thank you so much for showing up today. This is a really wonderful and important day. Today with the Civic Engagement Center, I'll ask Christine to say hello.
Hello.
Very good. We're going to host what is called the Next System Teach-In. Okay? I'm going to take this moment to explain briefly what is the Next System Project. The Next System Project is an ambitious multi-year initiative aimed at thinking boldly about what is required to deal with the systemic challenges the United States faces now and in coming decades. Responding to real hunger for a new way forward and building on innovative thinking and practical experience with new economic institutions and approaches being developed in communities across the country and around the world, the goal is to put the central idea of system change and that there can be a next system on the map. Okay? Working with a broad group of researchers, theorists, and activists, present company over here, for example, we seek to launch a national debate on the nature of the next system using the best research, understanding, and strategic thinking on the one hand, and on the ground organizing and development experience on the other, to refine and publicize comprehensive alternative political economic system models that are different in fundamental ways from the failed systems of the past and capable of delivering superior social, economic, and ecological outcomes. By defining issues systemically, we believe we can begin to move the political conversation beyond its current limits, with the aim of catalyzing a substantive debate about the need for a radically different system and how we might go about its construction. Despite the scale of the difficulties, and there are certainly a few, a cautious and paradoxical optimism is warranted. There are real alternatives here. Arising from the unforgiving logic of dead ends, the steadily building array of promising new proposals and alternative institutions and experiments, together with an explosion of ideas and new activism, offer a powerful basis for hope. So that's the Next System Project. Today we launch it with this Get Out to Vote, and we're going to do an Earth Day event on Friday. You are all super welcome for that one too. And we're going to continue to keep working with all of you to get some registered folks to maybe vote for the very first time. So with our Next System Teach-In, without further ado, our plan is to get you, our friends, students, and prospective voters registered to vote. We'll be tabling today and Friday in order to facilitate this process. But even if you are already registered and ready to vote, please enjoy the information, have some pizza. Our program starts now. And Helene Gabelnick, Susan Garza, Beata Welsh are going to give us some information about a wonderful organization called the League of Women Voters. Without further ado, please honor our folks here today.
Thank you. I believe that this PowerPoint is available. I'm not sure if it's, do you know, Todd, if it's going to be posted okay. So I'm not going to go through these little YouTube things that come up in it. I'll just skip through those. But this is about voter registration and your vote counting. First of all, when you register to vote, the address that you use, which is usually your home address, determines what we call your political address. That is all the districts in which you are located. Some of these are like the U.S. Congressional District, the Illinois State Senate District, House, the ward in Chicago, which if you're a Chicago resident, you may be well aware of which ward you're in. There's also a Cook County Commissioner District. So all of these districts is what we can call your political address. You can find all of this information on this particular website, and we have a handout that has that website there for you. It's very easy though at chicagoelections.com, and you can go there and find your political address. After we do this presentation, if any of you have smartphones, if you want to look for any of this, we'd be glad to help you find out that information. In order to vote, you have to be registered. Usually people register ahead of time, but since this past primary in Illinois, it is now possible to register in your home precinct on the day of election. That's new. That wasn't the case before. In order to register in Chicago, you must be a resident of Chicago, and you must be a citizen, either by birth or by naturalization. The next election coming up is called a general election, and that's November 8th, 2016. We're going to be electing, among others, the President, the Vice President of the United States, a United States Senator from Illinois, all the representatives in the U.S. Congress from Illinois, and actually from the whole country. Illinois state senators serve 4-year terms, so they're not all being elected, and the districts that have elections are listed there, so you can find out if you're in that district. All the Illinois state representatives. And then we have some other things. Incidentally, Chicago has one of the longest ballots of any jurisdiction in the country. We elect commissioners for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Okay, there's 3 of them are elected for a 6-year term, 1 for a 2-year term where someone resigned. This used to be called the Metropolitan Sanitary District. They changed the name about 15 years ago. This one sounds better. But what it is, it's the district that's responsible for taking care of the sewage and what happens to that. And the big issues relate to what happens when it rains. In Chicago, we have only one sewer system, so rainwater is mixed with the sewage. And so it's a big job to clean it all, especially when it's raining. So that's when you have the motto of don't shower when it's raining, because you're just putting more water into the system. We also will be electing the Cook County State's Attorney, the Cook County Circuit Court Clerk, and the Cook County Recorder of Deeds. And if you paid some attention to the primary, that first race had a lot of press in the primary. We also in Illinois elect judges to the Illinois Supreme Court, Appellate, and Circuit Courts. We also elect members of the Cook County Board of Review. So if you appeal your taxes, there's a board that reviews that. And then, just in case you haven't had enough to do on Election Day, we have a judicial retention ballot. These are judges who are serving, and they must be retained. And there may be as many as 100 judges on this ballot, and you vote yes or no to retain them. How do you get registered? There are 3 ways of getting registered. The first is online, and we'll go through each of these in turn. This has become, especially among college students, the easiest way to register to vote. Right. There's a mail-in form, Form 275, and we have copies of that. And then there are the deputy voter registrars, and you have 3 deputy voter registrars here who can help you. And then you can go to the Chicago Board of Elections and register there. So there are actually 4 ways to do it. 3 could be done here. Online registration. The restriction is you must be in the Illinois Secretary of State's database, which means you either have a driver's license or a state ID. The important thing here is that the address in the database must be the one from which you want to vote. So if you have moved and you want to vote at your new address, but you haven't told the Secretary of State that you've moved, and that often happens, you cannot use the online registration system. You have to use one of the other 2 systems that we have here. I'm not going to talk about any of these. This is instructions for the form if you want to fill out Form 275. For deputy voter registrars, which we are, we have a form. You need to have 2 IDs. One of them has to have the address from which you want to register. Neither of these IDs have to be picture, however. That's not necessary. Once you're registered, you can verify your registration at the Chicago Board of Elections, determine your political address, see who all your elected officials are, find your polling place, and view a sample ballot. So all of that's available from this website, and it's pretty user-friendly, and they also have a mobile version, so it's easy to use from your iPhone. Now, once you're registered and you want to vote, there are 3 options here as well. You can vote by mail. This used to be called absentee voting, but they changed the name. It's now vote by mail, and in fact, the Board of Elections is encouraging this. You can vote early, and you can vote on election day, and we'll go through each of these. General dates for this upcoming election: as early as August 10th, you can apply for a vote by mail ballot, which will be sent to you. Starting September 29th, there will be early voting at selected sites, and those will be publicized. October 11th is the last day for regular voter registration, such as what we'll do or what will be done with online. However, we then have something called grace period registration. So if you forgot, you didn't do it, you can register at selected sites between October 12th and November 7th. The only catch with grace period registration is you have to vote at the same time. So if you go in to register, you need to know what you're going to be doing when you actually vote. So it's important to keep that in mind. November 8th is Election Day. You can only vote on Election Day in your home precinct or polling place. So you can't vote anywhere else, and that sometimes causes a problem. People come in, they see the flag out front, and they say, oh, I want to vote here. Well, you can't. You have to be in your home precinct. It's from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., and again, you can register at that time if you've put it off. Information about candidates. Obviously, newspapers have candidates complete questionnaires that they post. Newspapers may endorse candidates. TV, radio stations may schedule all kinds of programs, debates, or forums. They may post questions. WTTW did that this past primary. They may broadcast debates that are organized by other organizations. League of Women Voters of Illinois and Chicago have done some debates that were publicized or shown. There are websites available. There's something called Ballot Ready, which lets you compare the positions of various candidates. There's this site, Vote for Judges, which has the recommendations of the bar associations, not specifically for a judge, but whether that judge is qualified. And on the retention ballot, they'll say whether they feel that a particular judge should not be retained. I think in the last 50 years, there have been maybe 2 judges who have not been retained. And anyway, this isn't a really good system here. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Never mind, forget that. In the March, just to say, every vote counts. In the March 2016 primary election in the 33rd Ward, any of you residents of the 33rd Ward, Deborah Mell is the alderman. The Democratic committeeman was elected by a margin of 50 votes out of almost 11,000 votes that were cast. So these are just some observations. Bad officials are elected by good citizens who do not vote. So if you look at the percentage of people who vote in this country, it's not as high as it should be. So also, there's no such thing as not voting. You either vote by voting or you vote by staying home. And that makes a difference. These are the turnouts by age. And historically, people of college student age have a much lower turnout in elections. And it's the people who are over 70, 65 and older who have a much higher voter turnout. So be sure to vote. Thank you. If you have any questions, we can answer them, and this will be available. I don't know how you're going to.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. So, without further ado, we're going to be available today, on Friday, and we're going to keep working on this all the way through the connection in the fall to get out the vote. How many folks have your phones with you? Just show of hands. Could we use you to try this out to get the online work? I think the best way would be to have you come on up here and get it. It's going to show you how to do it right here and now. So, and we'll find out, I guess, by doing that if you're with the state database, right?
You want to do it on this one? This is that one.
Yes, it does.
You want to do it that
So come on up, come right on up. We'll start and see where we can go with it. Okay?
What if they want to see? It's a question. What they want to see.
Yeah.